No iMac Pro, no M2 MacBook Pro, no Mac Pro. Apple's rumored March event is looking a little flat in more ways than one, because while you may be disappointed, or dare I say upset, that these new rumored Apple Silicon Macs won't be available until later this year, there is one Mac that is still on the table to be at this event, and it could end up being the best Mac announced this year. Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and yes, my dream computer, the iMac Pro, is reported to sadly be delayed, and now rumored to be coming out in the middle of the year. So instead of getting depressed, I am focusing on what is coming, and honestly, it could be a way better value than any other computer that Apple launches this year. And I know you think you're so smart, so intelligent, because you know that I'm about to say that this computer is the Mac Mini. Well, under normal circumstances, if we were in the same room having a conversation, you would be smart. But let's be honest, you just read the title and looked at the thumbnail, so you deserve no credit. Actually, you deserve some credit if you made it this far into the video, staring at this face. I mean, it's hideous. It repulses most people, which is why most people click away in the first 5 seconds of the video, but you're a trooper. So hit the like button and get subscribed, and feel free to ask me anything about this Mac Mini in the comments below. So first of all, what is this Mac Mini? Or as I'm calling it, the Mac Mini Pro, which should be a replacement for the current space gray Intel Mac Mini. Well, this computer should follow a very similar philosophy to Apple's other Mac Minis, and that in itself makes it very easy to report on, because the basic concept of the Mac Mini is just a small desktop tower running Mac OS, and now one that is running on powerful Apple custom silicon. However, even though that's the easy way to describe it, it goes beyond that for this year, because there are reports that this year Apple will be redesigning the Mac Mini and perhaps giving it its most important overhaul yet. According to John Prosser, the Mac Mini may be getting a little flatter, with no aluminum top, which will be replaced by a plexiglass one. It could also sport a two-tone color scheme, giving the Mac Mini a new visual distinction. However, I think this design is more practical than the past Mac Mini designs because of that plexiglass top, because this could actually make the Mac Mini more reliable in wireless transmission, because metal is the ultimate blocker of wireless signal, and right now the top of the Mac Mini is aluminum. And while the current Mac Mini has a plastic bottom for these wireless signals to pass through, if you do a Google search for Mac Mini Bluetooth or Wi-Fi dropouts, you might be surprised to hear that it's a pretty common issue. So this structural change to the Mac Mini could perhaps make the wireless signal less likely to suffer dropouts or be blocked by that aluminum top, and it will look cool and sleek. That's also important. Of course, there's other design tidbits like the amount of ports the Mac Mini will have. Now, all we really know is that the Mac Mini ports in the past have been plentiful, and even the M1 Mac Mini with its limited port bandwidth currently supports a pretty robust selection of ports from USB-A to Thunderbolt-C. I think if we look at the current Intel Mac Mini and the M1 Mac Mini, we will land somewhere in between, so possibly 3 to 4 USB-C ports, maybe 2 USB-A ports, an HDMI port, an Ethernet port, a headphone jack, and personally, I do think we will see a return to the SD card slot, considering it was just recently added to the new MacBook Pro, so why not bring it back to the Mac Mini as well? Now, what about what goes inside of this Mac Mini? Because that really is the important part, because customers for this machine are looking for something more powerful and, more importantly, probably, something that is more capable than the existing M1 Mac Mini. Because even though that M1 Mini is still a great value, it is far from perfect and has multiple imperfections, like only being able to go up to a maximum of 16 gigabytes of memory, and it can currently only connect to 2 displays at a time, with only one Thunderbolt display and one HDMI display. So this Mac Mini Pro should address those issues, because it's rumored to come with the same M1 Pro and M1 Max chips that are inside the MacBook Pro, which addressed a lot of those issues. So the M1 Pro chip in the Mini should probably be able to connect to 3 displays, and the M1 Max chip in the Mini should be able to connect up to 4 displays. Because it also comes with these chips, that also means the Mac Mini will be able to be outfitted with more memory. So you can get up to 32 gigabytes of memory on the M1 Pro model, and up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory on the M1 Max model, putting it right where the current maximum amount of configurable RAM is on the Intel Mac Mini that this model will be replacing. Obviously, the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips themselves are going to give the Mini a serious power boost, and it will be significant over the processing power of the M1 chip, and even more significant of a boost over the Intel Mac Mini, where it will now have a 10-core CPU with 8 high-performance cores, and for the first time, we will have a Mac Mini that can truly compete in graphics performance. So that means a Mac Mini with a 64-core GPU, meaning that this Mac Mini will truly be a small desktop workstation, being able to compete with the highest-end Macs. And based on certain tasks like video encoding, it will probably end up being faster than more expensive Intel Mac-based machines like the Intel-based Mac Pro. This Mac Mini, I know when it comes out, I know when reviewers get their hands on it, I think that's one of the praises they will be singing. You will actually be able to get a smaller desktop machine that in some use cases will outperform a $6,000 full-size desktop tower, and that is just going to be crazy. What about more powerful chips like the rumored M1 Max Duo, which could be placed in computers like the iMac Pro or a future Mac Pro? Well, I don't think we will see any special or exclusive chips for this Mac Mini Pro, and I think it will pretty much ship with the same chip specs that are already in the MacBook Pro, given the Mac Mini's tiny enclosure, and those chips are honestly perfect for that type of device. All right, what about pricing? Well, I think the Mini will probably be similar in pricing to a spec'd up Intel Mac Mini. So what I mean by that is if we look at configurations that are currently offered by the Intel Mac Mini and the new M1 Pro MacBook Pros, we can now see that the new M1 Pro MacBook Pros start with 512 gigabytes of starting storage and 16 gigabytes of unified memory. If we look at the Intel Mac Mini, it has 512 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of starting memory. So I think if we just take that $1,099 price point that's on the Intel Mac Mini, add in double the memory, and I think we probably get to a starting price of around $1,300. Obviously, that's the base model. For other configurations, we should be able to go up to 8 terabytes of internal storage, and again, up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory. Now, as great as this Mac Mini sounds, I think one of the missing components for this entire package is a new Apple branded display. And I mean an Apple branded display that doesn't cost $5,000 without a stand. Well, there are rumors that Apple is working on 3 new Apple branded displays, and one of them may be perfect to introduce alongside this Mac Mini. That's because there's rumors that there will be a new 24-inch entry-level Apple display that will use the same 4.5K panels as the 24-inch M1 iMac. Because this display is rumored to not have mini LED, the price for this should be below $1,000, and obviously should not face any of the supply chain shortages we are hearing that Apple is facing with mini LED production on these larger 27-inch external and internal displays for the iMac Pro. So while not guaranteed and certainly not rumored to be at Apple's March event, I actually think there's a chance, even if it's a slim chance, that we could see this Mac Mini Pro be shown off right next to Apple's entry-level monitor, and it could make this a very compelling package. And with a small footprint, unparalleled power in the Mac desktop space, this Mac Mini Pro could end up being one of the most popular Mac choices for desktop users who want to maximize their performance per dollar. And I think it's likely that this will be the best valued Pro Mac in the entire lineup. But what do you think? Are you excited for the Mac Mini Pro, or are you disappointed we won't see other Mac options announced at this rumored March event, and we may have to wait until the middle of this year or maybe even the end of this year? Hopefully not. As always, I really hope you liked the video and I hope it was informative. If you did, make sure you leave me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. And if you think that Mac Mini Pro sounds a little too powerful, or let's be frank, sounds like it might be a little bit too much money for you, well, don't forget what is still the best valued Mac on the market today, the M1 Mac Mini, which I will leave links to in the description below if you want to pick one up. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.